Welcome to another episode of the Wholesale Elite Podcast. I am Isham joined by my main man, Mr. Tanner Santucci. What's up, dude?
Happy Friday, bro.
Happy Friday. Let's get it going. Guys, today we have a gentleman who I've known for a little bit, but I'm so curious to dive in to this man's life and his story, because I think you'll find it quite fascinating and maybe even relatable. And so I want to introduce to the world to Mr. Joseph Dozier. How are you, sir?
Doing great. How are you doing?
Well, we're well, man. How do I pronounce your last name?
You just said it, bro.
I said it.
That's it right there. It's funny. It's funny. For my wedding, my grandfather said Dozier, and my dad told me that my last name is French German, which I never knew. And so my grandfather pronounced it correctly, but I've always heard Dozier, but it is Dozier. So
that's hilarious, dude. With my name Isham, we have a very similar story. So I mispronounced my own name, and I didn't realize that until I spoke to my grandmother. So I'm named after my father. I'm the second, right? Which means my grandmother named my dad. And so before she died, and we would talk, she would say Isham, this and that, and Isham. And I was like, why does she mispronounce my name? But come to find out, she named my dad Isham. He never went by that name. Funny. He always went by his middle name. And so when I grew into, because I was known as Charlie as a kid, our middle name is Charles. So when I became an adult, I'm like, I don't want to be called Charlie anymore. I'm an adult. I'm gonna be called Isham, the name that I was given by birth. So I started telling people to call me Isham. And for years and years and years, I eventually found out that I was mispronouncing my own name. So
that's so amazing. So what's your origins of your name?
It's a long story, but it really has nothing to do with anything cool. It's not a cool story. It's not like it means like son of a king or anything neat. It's an old English surname, but that's enough about me. I want to I want to learn more about you, good sir. Joseph, let's do this, man. Let's take our audience on a little bit of a history journey into your life, and let's start with your origin story, man, because I'll just let the cat out of the bag. You're a pastor, and that's what you do for a living. And I don't know many pastors that are real estate investors. I don't think that that's a disqualifier or anything by any means. But you don't come across, a lot of pastors. And so before you got to your pastoral duties, what's your story, man? Where'd you come from? What was your upbringing? What led you to where you are right now?
Yeah, great question. So I live in Virginia now, part of Virginia called Williamsburg, Virginia. It's like literally dead center in like between two major cities, Norfolk and Richmond. They're like both out 1 hour away. But I'm not from Williamsburg. I'm actually from the Virginia Beach area, which is an hour away from here. Grew up with divorced parents, and actually grew up in the church, but I never really followed like God, never really followed Jesus. I would always say I'm a Christian, but really never really followed God. And then one year my mom got a job in Richmond. That was in my 8th grade year. And so we moved up to Richmond, Virginia, and that's actually where I do most of my deals now. So we moved up to Richmond, Virginia, and I went to high school there for 4 years. And then after I graduated high school, we moved to Williamsburg. So I just moved to Williamsburg with my mom, and had a great time. And then one day I come home on my birthday weekend. She told me that she gave her life to Jesus, gave her life to God. And that was on my 18th birthday. I just came back from like partying at ODU, and to be completely honest, I was curious on how long it was going to last, because I just kept seeing it, back and forth, back and forth. Like I said, we grew up in the church, and I had the question, yeah, we'll see how long this lasts. But also I was like, why would you do it on my birthday weekend? Like I turned 18. Like when you turn 18, like everything starts when you turn 18. And so, which I was already doing everything before I turned 18. But she asked me to come to church with her, and I did. I said, yeah. I mean, I've always been a fan of church. I love church and never shy away from it. But again, we never went. But we went to church, and the pastor was talking about being a follower of Jesus, and I always said that I was someone who followed Jesus, but really never lived my life like I did. And so that was the day I said, okay, I'm gonna commit my life to him. And that was actually in 2010, so 12 years ago. And now I'm actually a pastor at that church, and met my wife at that church, and yeah, it's been a fun journey. Now we have 2 kids, another one on the way, and it's a phenomenal story, phenomenal journey.
That's incredible. So awesome. What does your wife do?
So she's a hairstylist. And so she's been a hairstylist ever since ever since she graduated high school, and she has an amazing business. But we actually just kind of took like a step of faith. She's cutting back her hours so that so that she could stay home mainly with the kids. She just worked today. Today's Friday, so she's only working on Fridays now, and I get to watch the kids on Fridays, which I've always done because I'm always off on Fridays. And yeah, so she'll be doing that, but also, honing in on her wedding business as well, like doing hair for weddings. And so we're just excited for what is to come. So
that's awesome. So she's hairstylist who's kind of scaling back a little bit. When she was going full time, so to speak, was it her own business, or was she working with someone else? Or
yeah, so it originally started as like commission based, and then she moved to a different salon where she would do a booth rent, and then it's her own business. And so yeah, she's had her own business for a long time, and she's a beast, man. Like everything that she does is phenomenal. I like her. She always takes before and after photos, and I'm just like amazed by how she does everything, the process of everything. And so I'm surrounded by hair all the time. And I don't know if you see it in the background. I know you said we're mainly audio, but that's hair right there sticking out right there. So like, but yeah, we're just surrounded by hair. And my daughter, right, and she's just like wanting to follow her mom's footsteps. I have a son as well, and he's picking up basketballs and footballs, and I'm excited for that. And so we'll see where they go. But yeah, my wife's amazing. She's incredible, and but she's an awesome mom too. Like I just can't. I have so much to say about her. I think that's I can take bro. Not just days but years to talk about how amazing she is. So
that's awesome, bro. Well, how did real estate come into the picture?
Yeah, so as you know, 2020 happened with COVID, and everyone took a step back to kind of just reevaluate their lives. But then, to be honest, when George Floyd happened, that kind of made me just go on a journey of just learning more about our history and what we need to learn about. And so I was just listening to a lot of podcasts. And then I came across one podcast. I don't know if you're familiar with it, T.I.'s podcast, Expeditiously. I don't know if they still run it, but he had a guest on there called John Hope Bryant. I don't know if you're familiar with him. He's an entrepreneur, very famous guy. And I was very intrigued by what he said, but something stuck out to me within that podcast. And I listened to that podcast twice. Yeah. And it was cool because we were on a road trip and I listened to that twice. And he talked about how African Americans need to have financial literacy. And I kind of looked at myself and I said, you know what? I don't even have financial literacy. Like I need to dive into this. And I know, and I want to get out of debt. And I also have so because of my family's a little weird. So I have three sisters on my mom's side and then two sisters on my dad's side. So I'm like the only breed, you can say. And then I have one of my sisters on my dad's side. She has a cousin that is a pastor and a real estate investor as well. And so that's where you can kind of see where the idea came from. But he owns like 12, 13 rental properties. He even owns Airbnbs. And so I called him up one day. I said, hey, I would love to learn about financial literacy and real estate investing. And he told me, hey, study for a whole year, come back to me. Because I got out of debt. I got out of school debt. Me and my wife got out of school debt, which was awesome that year. And so I took a whole year just learning. And when I say learning, like listening to all the podcasts, reading all the books, I was door dashing. And so when I was door dashing, I listened to audiobooks, I listened to podcasts, I renovated my bathroom at my house for a whole year, which was my fault, which I will never do again in my life. But listen to bigger pockets, and it was just honing in on real estate investing. And then I learned about wholesaling, because wholesaling is one of the areas where you can get in real estate without money down. And I was very intrigued on that. But I also realized I don't have enough time to pick up the phone and call sellers and door knock and drive for dollars. Plus, because I'm a pastor, I don't like mixing my career with like other business. And so my business is actually 45 minutes out of where I live. So I don't mix it. So that everything can just stay, hey, here in Williamsburg, I have a reputation to uphold. And even in business, I still have a reputation to uphold. Sure. But like, if anything ever comes out of it, like it's cool. Like it's not going to be that big of a deal. Yeah, so I listened to it. I actually found out about Astro. I know we're all in the same group together. I found out about Astro through like an ad, because Jamil was talking about like how to do this business without zero marketing and doing it in an untraditional way. And I was intrigued. And then I said, man, this is way too expensive. I'm going to do this by myself. And then, so I actually started in January of 2021, just picked up the phone and actually started my business account, opened up a business banking account, opened up an LLC, just because I know that that's how you make sure everything is clean and smooth.
Sure.
Starting out. And so
this is 2 years ago, 2021, you said, right?
Oh, sorry. 2022. 2022.
Got you.
Sorry.
Okay.
I apologize. 2022. So once I picked up the phone, it took me like until March of 2022 to like call Astro back, because I was just getting very frustrated. I was watching other people be successful, and I was just like, you know what? I just need some help. I need some help. And so, sorry, my webcam is being a little crazy.
All good. All good.
So I was like, I need some help. And so I called back Astro, talked to my wife, and I said, hey, let's just go ahead and do this. And if we get back in debt and I don't pay off this debt, it's going to be my fault. And, you know, everything that I don't make, I'll make sure that, you know, I'll pay it off, and I'll do the extra. I'll go the extra mile, basically.
Got it.
2 weeks into, go ahead.
Go ahead. Please carry on.
I was going to say 2 weeks into the program, I got my first deal. And so it was awesome.
Man, I'm glad I didn't cut you off then. That's a great ending. Let me ask, let's go back to the uncle. Okay. So you've got this kind of blended family. Why did you seek him out in terms of, I know you said you listened to the podcast with John Hope Bryant, and he said that, hey, African Americans need to figure out financial literacy. How come he was your North Star for financial literacy?
Because he was doing it. He was African American, owned rental properties. He was doing what I was doing in my career. He was already doing it.
I see. So you already knew he existed. It wasn't like you asked your, okay, got you.
Yeah, like I knew he existed. It was just from conversations. Like I never started off like, oh, I want to do this. I want, like, it was like, oh, that's cool. Like that's awesome that you do that, like, but after it triggered something in my mind to say, man, I need to be financially well, and being a pastor is awesome. And a lot of people know, like, pastors don't make much, and I don't do this because I don't make much.
Sure.
But I also want to learn how to invest. I want to learn how to be financially well off. But I even told my wife, like, I want to teach my kids how to be financially well off.
Absolutely.
Like, I wasn't taught that. I didn't get taught that in school. I went to college. I have my master's degree. I didn't get taught anything about, like, financial literacy. Sure. And so I think it's just important. So I went to him because he was already doing it, and he's an amazing person too. Like, he's just growing and scaling his business. I wish I could talk to him more, but he's just super busy, but he is someone that I often go to and say, hey, I got this deal, do you know anyone, or are you looking for something? But yeah, it's pretty cool.
Okay, so he said, come back to me in a year. Has the year elapsed?
Oh yeah, it's been elapsed. But I got to just chat, and I talked to him about wholesaling. What he focuses and specializes in rentals, long-term and short-term rentals. And so yeah, we talked multiple times. We sat down. I told him about wholesaling and how I would like to get into that. He connected me with someone else that does it, who's in the area. And so he's just been a really good resource to kind of just pick someone's brain and just talk to him about, like, the business. And he's just been an amazing resource.
I see. Awesome. Well, okay. So just so that our listeners and viewers can get a better insight into kind of where you're at right now. So you essentially got started earlier last year, right? You said January 2022. You kind of stalled for a little bit, and then you're like, all right, I need help. So you reached out to Astro, got plugged into the system, and then within a couple of weeks later, you got your first deal. How's life been since then?
It's been going well, man. I'm learning a lot. I'm learning all about, it really is up to you to go after these things. And the whole entire year, I closed 4 deals. And so, but that's been, what's really taught from Astro is really squatting up with people. And that's essentially my success. I acquire the deal, and then I give it out to someone who could help me close it, and it's just been awesome. There's only one deal that I've closed all by myself, but I think it's
your first one.
It wasn't my first one. It was actually my third. It was like my third one. And my fourth one, I like I said, 3 out of 4 have been JVs with people. Actually, one person from Astro, Jared. I don't know if you know him, but he's also been an amazing resource. Like, how you talk to me about you and Tanner just talking. Like, there would be a span of a week where me and Jared would talk, and I would just learn from him because he's just been growing, and his business has been flourishing. And so he's someone that I really trust and rely on. But yeah, it's been great. It's a little slow to the year, but I have one in the pipeline right now. So hopefully that closes next week. But other than that, we're looking to keep going. I'm headed to Phoenix next month for Mastermind, which will be my first one, and I'll learn how to scale that up too, and learn how to network and squad up with more people. But yeah, I'm hoping to get, I'm hoping to get better at this business. And so
absolutely. I mean, you're definitely plugged in the right group. Let me ask you, what is what's your biggest challenge right now in your real estate business?
Well, my biggest challenge right now, bro, is just time.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just trying to figure out a good system, shoot, like agent, like, so my main strategy is direct to agent. And like today, for instance, like I spent a lot of time comping MLS deals, but then, not getting a hold of the agent. And my 9 to 5, I have to be at the office at like 8:30, and I don't get off until 5. And I was sharing with, I think Brittany Behrman, and I was sharing with her, like, my struggle right now is just finding the time and finding the right time to talk to agents. Like, when are they going to pick up the phone? Like, I know they're not going to pick up the phone at 7 a.m. because I know that I can start making phone calls at 7. I just recently tried to, make phone calls during my lunch, like from 12, and sometimes they pick up the phone, and then I get off at 5. And so are they going to pick up the phone at 5? But I do have a family to come home to, and so I think my biggest challenge is time, and I'm just navigating that right now. That is just one thing that I'm navigating in this business, because, you guys have the space and the time to just blow open the doors. For someone like myself that absolutely loves my job. Like, I love my job because it's with people. And that's actually one of the reasons why I wanted to get into this space. And that's what one things I loved about Jamil is that, hey, we do business because of relationships. And so, like, I love my job because it's helping me get better at my job. This wholesaling business is helping me get better at my job with communication and follow up. But at the same time, it's like, well, I don't really have all the time in the world.
Sure.
And so Fridays are my days where I try to, like, hone in and get things done and throw on a movie for my kids. But other than that, I think it's just really time to answer your question.
I figured it was really important to have you on because it's good to hear the perspective of someone who has a job, who's kind of working this thing part-time, and hasn't given up. And not only have they not given up, but you've done deals. One of our first podcasts was Jacob Simpson, and Jacob's crushing it now. His business does well over 6 figures a month. And it took him over a year to land his first deal. Yeah, a year and a half to knock out his first deal. So for people like you, I'm fascinated to ask, what keeps you going? Because there's so many people who give up on themselves, or they'll give themselves this kind of false timeline of all right, I'm gonna get my first deal in 30 days or whatever, or my first deal in such and such. What's kept you in the game?
Yeah, so it's pretty funny, man. I think I would have given up on myself years ago. So I got my first deal like my 2 weeks in. It didn't close until like the next month, but I got it. Like, I got it assigned. It was a micro flip, like just a small micro flip. And then I got my second deal like 2 weeks after that. And I said, oh, we are rolling. We're rolling. We're about to crush this thing. It's about to be amazing. I get home from my cruise, like sitting pretty, like I get a good check-in, good wire. As soon as I get home from my cruise, me and my wife's anniversary cruise. And then after that, it was just kind of went downhill from there. It was like, oh my gosh, like just scratching my head. I didn't get another deal until September. So my last deal was like, my first 2 deals were April, May, and then you get this lull of like June, July, August, and then finally something in September, and then another like lull and just working it. And finally I get something in December. And that was one of my biggest assignment fees, which is awesome. But like I would tell you, man, like the mindset shift really helped me a lot. Astro week one is all about mindset. And there were a lot of things that I realized about myself that I just had to unlearn. And still to this day, like I had to keep my mindset in check because it's so easy to just be like, man, like I got a deal and nothing happens. And I'll tell you this, like after my third deal, I got the check in the mail. It was awesome. I felt great. Went for a run and I just felt discouraged. Like, man, like I can't do this. Like, what am I doing? Like, just right after I get a check, like I just got a check in the mail, go for a run, and I just feel myself discouraged and like, man, like, can I keep doing this? Can I just keep doing this? Can I just keep going? And I had to keep my mindset in check. Like, yeah, like we got to do this. My wife is stepping back from work, so I have to. But also because we have goals. This is bigger than just wholesaling. Like my company's name is called Rebuild Capital. That's what my LLC's name is, and I want to rebuild lives. I want to rebuild cities, and I want to rebuild communities. And so that's what it's all about. And so I have to keep going. I have to keep pushing forward, and I have to keep pressing in, and I have to keeping my mindset set in check, because if I don't, it's easy to quit. And so I think at week one of Astro really helped me just really stay locked in and focused, because it really helped me lock in on my mindset, which my mindset was I just had some negative thoughts. And
well,
let
me ask you this then real quick. I mean, what about, I mean, I know you just said after you got discouraged after getting a check, and usually no one's going to be discouraged in this business after getting a check. So why exactly did you have that feeling, or why did that overwhelm you then?
I think just the aspect of keeping it going, like, okay, we got to do it again.
Right.
Like that one check isn't going to, what's the word? I'm drawing a blank here. Sorry, guys. That one check's not going to fulfill everything. If you want to go on vacation, you got to get another one. Or if you want to travel, you got to get another one. Or if you want to scale your business, you got to get another one. And so it's just like the overwhelming aspect of, oh man, like I wish that this one check could just, save everything, but it's not. I have to keep going. And it's just like, man, like, do I have the mindset to keep going? Do I have the bandwidth to keep going? Like, this is nice, but is it worth it? Like, and those things just came into my thoughts as I was on my run. And I had to like tell myself, yes, like it's all worth it. Like, we got to keep going. It's fun. This is amazing. This is awesome. Like, you would not be where you are today if you didn't do this business, and I'm amazed by what I've done. Like, I cannot describe how amazing it is to be well off in just 1 year, and it's awesome. I never had that before.
Absolutely. Let's go back a little bit, because you said something I want to dig a little deeper in. You said, in week one and whatnot that helped you, and you said that there's a lot of mindset stuff you had to unlearn. What were some of those things you had to unlearn?
Yeah, man. So one of the things that they talk about is shoot, I can't remember the specific week, but or the specific topic, but it was all about going back in your past and
the lenses.
yeah, the lenses, I think, and it was remembering, defaults. Like we all have defaults, and there were some defaults in my life that I had to just like, hey, like we got to stop this. This is not good. Like we can't just default to this kind of mindset. We can't default to this kind of action.
Share a little more, man. I want you to give some, I want to give some real good value to the audience, because there's someone that's going to hear this and be like, oh, that's me. Can you be a little bit more specific?
Yeah. So specifically, like quitting. Like I'm a quitter at heart. You know, that's just a default in my life. Why? Possibly because I've been surrounded by people, you know, I grew up in a divorce home. So you could say, you know, your mom and dad, they quit on each other. Obviously, like I wouldn't necessarily say they did that, but they didn't live out their commitment.
Right.
You know, and so going from there, it was easy for me to quit things in life. Like I would always say, well, I don't feel like doing this. I'd be very passionate in the beginning. And then a month later, I'd be like, yeah, I don't feel like doing it. I just don't feel like doing it. And it would just be easy for me to get out of it. Specifically for like school. I was really smart when I was younger. But I got to a point where I just didn't care. And I really do think that, you know, I think my parents' situation played a part in it, because I was really hoping for them to, you know, get back together. I was really hoping for them to, you know, make amends, but that never happened. And so I think, you know, taking that into consideration, that played a factor into me just like, you know, I just don't really, not going to give it my all. I'm not going to really care about these things. Another example is, it's like a funny example, but like I'm someone who likes to stay ahead of like trends, and that really matters to me. And they talk about something like that. Go back when you were like in kindergarten or first grade, and something happened when I was in kindergarten, or actually first grade, probably third grade. I would say third grade. I know I just like jumped years. Sorry.
It's all good.
Third grade. Do you guys remember the show Survivor?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
So I never watched that show ever, but kids were playing Survivor, and I never watched it when I was little. And I specifically remember someone saying, "Oh, Kobe." I was like, "Oh, Kobe Bryant." And they're like, "No, it's from Survivor." And it was that moment where I was like, "Okay, I'm never gonna not know stuff. I'm never gonna not be someone that does not know a trend." And so from that day on, it's like I want to be ahead. I need to be ahead of the game. And so when I was in high school, I would always get fresh music. People would come to me sometimes to ask me, "Hey, can you put music on my iPod?" Because I was the guy. I was not the guy. I was one of the guys that had new music. And if 3P from Lil Wayne was playing, I already heard it 2 months before. And I was like, yeah, that's old news. But that was like an ego thing.
Sure.
That I had to like unlearn for myself, and like say, hey, it's okay not to be on top of trends. It's okay to kind of be yourself and like really care about what actually matters in life. Does that make sense? And so Absolutely. Like that's another thing that I had to just kill my ego. And my ego wants to be ahead all the time. It wants to compete. I always want to compete with people, but I've had to like collaborate more, you know, like I like working by myself, but I have to start collaborating more, because if I don't collaborate more, then guess what? My business is going to flop and it's going to fail. if I'm going to look at other people and look at how they're ahead of me, there's something in me that says, oh, I have to be ahead of them because I just cannot be behind. I'm living in a space where I'm like, okay, well, they're ahead because they have the time to do it, but also they're crushing it. And I need to celebrate what they're doing. I need to start celebrating their accomplishments and actually sit back and say, okay, what can I learn from them? Because if I don't sit back and learn from them, I can let my ego get ahead of me and be like, well, I'm not going to do this, or I quit because I'm not ahead. And this isn't the lane for me. But it's like, no, like, come on, man, we're in our own lane. You know, we have our own business. We need to celebrate what other people are doing and learn from what other people are doing. And in the process, we're gonna grow and we're gonna learn. Does that all make sense?
Dude, that makes perfect sense. You know, gosh, I think that celebrating others' success is the antidote to scarcity mindset. You know, and honestly celebrating other people's success. And, you know, there's a bit of fake it till you make it that you kind of sometimes need to do in the beginning in order to build the habit. But, you know, over time, gosh, I say this on, I feel like almost every podcast, but one of the reasons why Tanner and I started this podcast specifically, I think one of the names we threw around in the beginning was like REI Mind, and it was all mindset stuff, because we realized that was the most important part for success in this business. It wasn't the skill set. It really wasn't. It was the mindset. The mindset's what keeps you going. The skill set can get you a quick buck, maybe a few more after that, but the mindset's what keeps you in the game. And you pointed out something that, you know, I encourage, you know, the listeners and the viewers who aren't a part of Astro. If you're not looking for mentorship or whatever, that's fine. But gosh, invest in the coaching program just for the first week. I mean, the first week is so powerful. I was on a podcast with Jamil Damji, who is the CEO one of the owners of Keegley, and he's the head of Astro. And he actually said, because I told him, I was like, man, I wish my family could watch this. And he was like, let them. Give them your password. And I had to stop myself from like bawling, from just getting teary-eyed, because I'm like, oh my gosh, if my family can watch this, they can literally change their life. They can literally change their life. So I introduced to my sister. She started hitting me back, and she's got some great things going now for her. And it's just phenomenal. One of the things that really helped me, so I asked you to be transparent. So I'll do the same, because I know, it's some pretty deep stuff that you really have to kind of dig into in that first week. And for me, one of the default one I remember was, so for anyone who's not familiar, these defaults are things that happened to you way, 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 way long ago that have impacted you, that you may not even know it. But everything that you do, you typically run it through the lens of one of these defaults, meaning like you filter it through this thing first. Like for you had to filter out being ahead of trends. Like you didn't want to be embarrassed anymore. You didn't want to be ashamed. You didn't want any of that stuff. So that led you to become this person to where when, years and years later, when you're in your teenage years, you're ahead of the game now. People are coming to you for stuff. And so for me, I'll never forget my default that I recognized after some deep diving was think I'm great. I wanted someone to think I'm great, because I had some crap that happened to me in the past where I felt like I felt foolish. I felt stupid. I felt dumb. I would hear people say these things to me over and over again, to where that was my filter. So I needed people to think I'm great. And they always say you'll recognize your defaults because you see it in everything you do and in every interaction you have. And I started thinking like, wow, for me, like that's it. Because I had this crazy need to impress people. I want people to think that I know my shit. I want people to think that I'm smart. I'm with it. I've got all these things. And man, when you can find out these things about yourself, you can then start to check yourself a little bit and just kind of understand where it comes from to where it's no longer weighing you down. So kudos to you for being vulnerable and telling that to the world, because I'm sure there's some other people out there. I came from a divorced home. So both my parents were, divorced. We moved all the time. I mean, all the time. Both my parents were in the military. And so I had zero consistency in my life. Nothing. We were moving all the time. My parents didn't know what to do. We were broke sometimes. Sometimes we had a little bit. There's no consistency. So, becoming an adult, I had to learn consistency, especially, being an entrepreneur. And so it helped me to acknowledge those things from the past to help me move forward. So I thank you for sharing that, man. And again, I'm sure, someone listening or watching is going to hear that and resonate. And so,
yeah, of course. I mean, like I said, every single person, or like myself, I just had some defaults that I just had to unlearn, and we all have them, whether we like it or not. And we got to be honest with ourselves,
Right.
And I have to be honest with myself. And so it's tough. You don't like to, be honest. I like to put everything under the rug and
absolutely.
and hide things, but you're not going to grow unless you get things out in the open and you say, hey, we got to address this.
Yeah, you sweep enough stuff under a rug, eventually you're going to trip over it, and you're going to keep tripping over it until you get it out. So
I think one of the biggest things.
Go
real
ahead,
quick, I just want to add one of the biggest things I think that I noticed when you were talking earlier, Joseph, was the ego. I think that's one of the most important things that can ruin a business or ruin someone, especially in this business. Because when you have that ego, you think you know it all, or you're maybe less willing to collaborate with others, right? Because you have that giant ego. But when you can drop that ego and you can realize that maybe that is for whatever reason, whether it's self-doubt or maybe a reason growing up, but if you can drop the ego and be vulnerable, like you had mentioned, where you had to unlearn some things, that's when you can really start to see your business excel. Because I think early on in most entrepreneurs, and I'll speak for myself, is there is that level of ego, because you feel like especially when you're getting into an industry or a business where you don't know everything, you almost, like Isham said earlier, you almost feel like you have to fake it to make it, when in reality you don't. If you can be vulnerable, you can drop the ego, you can let others know, hey, I'm new, I don't know what I'm doing, but I want to learn. Like, that's the biggest thing. And so it's important that, I think you mentioned earlier, that the ego is something you had to almost unlearn and be willing more to collaborate and be open to situations. So again, I just wanted to add that. When I heard that earlier, I was like, that's important.
What's one of the greatest lessons so far that you've learned in the world of real estate?
Oh man, relationships are everything. And I'll tell you, I gotta give you a story about this one deal, bro. It's actually my recent one I just closed. This thing was a roller coaster, bro. It actually came from a cold call from an agent, and called the agent. I was very transparent with her. Told her, hey, I may assign this deal. Is that okay? She was like, yeah, that's great. That's fine. As long as we close. And so, the seller was a lawyer, but his house was a hot mess. We were just kind of thinking, how could you live in this kind of this home? But he did it, and kudos to him. But it turned in, I found a buyer for it. And the buyer just kind of flaked out on me, which was fine. I still talk to him to this day. I'm not one of these people that's going to be like, well, okay, peace out. I'm never going to do business with you. But I got this thing under contract because the buyer said, hey, I can lock it up at this thing, and we're going to move it for this thing or this price. And then after I locked it up, I found myself in a bind, because I had to drop EMD and cancel the contract. So I had to drop EMD, or potentially drop EMD, lose $5,000 of EMD, and then cancel the contract, because that's what we agreed to. But luckily, Jared, who's in Astro, been talking, this guy got his guy out there, and I made more than what I was going to make. And that's just because of my relationship with him, but also the relationship I built with the agent.
The agent, yeah.
The agent was surprised how much we made. She was like, "You made $25K on this thing?" And she texted me that, and I didn't know what to think. I was like, I sent that to Jared. I was like, "Hey, bro, like, how should I respond to this? Like, this is weird." Like, because we were both splitting 25K, and I was like, "This is weird. Like, I don't know how to respond to this." And he was like, "Yeah, man, this is the first time I've ever seen that before." I was like, "Okay, I'm just going to shoot the gun." So yeah, we did. Like, but we JV'd on this, and I was like, "I don't know. I can't tell if you should be angry or like excited for me." She was like, "No, I'm like super excited for you." Like, and then I even got coffee with her one day when I was up in Richmond, and we just talked about it and just building that relationship. And she said, "You know, if we close this deal, like I'll make sure I mention your name." And I think that's just the power of relationships and the power of integrity, but also the power of saying what you're going to do. Recently, I just had to cancel a deal last week that I had under contract, and it was very unfortunate. I was really upset that I had to do that. I hate canceling contracts because it's your reputation. Your reputation is on the line, but not just that. Like, it's you said that you were going to do something.
Yeah, you're not able to help the seller. Yeah.
And I said I was going to do something. I said I can close at this, and I feel bad. I feel like, you know, I did. Obviously, I know it's not the truth, but I feel like I disappointed, you know, the sellers. But and actually, I was in it. They threatened to sue me. First time ever doing that, but we actually got out of it, which is fine. But like at the end of the day, I don't like canceling contracts because we said we were going to lock something up at this price and we were going to do it. And so, you know, Jesus says, let your yes be yes and your no be no. And so I told myself, okay, like I need to get myself in a situation where my yes will be yes. Will that always happen? No, I know that for a fact. I know I'm going to find myself in situations where we're just going to have to cancel the contract, and it is what it is. But if I can control what I can control and actually do what I was going to say, that's going to help me build solid relationships over time where agents can keep coming back to me and trusting me with more opportunities to be a solution in people's lives. Because that's at the end of the day, that's what we're doing. We're building relationships to be a solution for sellers, not just a seller. We're being a solution for the agent, not just the agent. We're also being a solution for the buyer. And so like literally we are the middleman to connecting all of the dots so that everyone wins, and we get to be a part of it. And so build solid relationships.
And that's a great response. Yeah, and you're right. You know, we as wholesalers play an incredible role in the world of investing. And when you're doing it with integrity and with transparency, you can move mountains. It's pretty powerful, the stuff that you can do once you learn that honesty is good enough. And so I'm glad that you said that, and that you know that was sounds like a pretty impactful lesson that you learned, which probably will shape some of the deals, you know, in the future moving forward. And so, man, wrapping up this episode, dude, first of all, thank you so much for your time and for your insight. Like I said,
thank you.
Yeah, dude, I'm sure a lot of people are going to, you know, be able to get something from this that's really going to help them move the needle. And so in closing, I'm sure Tanner may want to ask something, but I want to ask you kind of a real big, broad question. I feel like you would give a fairly powerful answer to this. Well, let me ask you, if you had an opportunity to stand on top of a soapbox and all the news channel cameras are pointed at you and all eyes are on Joseph, what would be your message to the world?
Oh, man. I don't know. No one's ever asked me that. That's a good question. Oh, man. I think at the end of the day, where people are, I would say Jesus loves you.
Mm.
He died on the cross for you, and he rose again for you. And so, God created humanity, and God created humanity, breathed life into humanity, and now we get to have a relationship with him. And I'm just honored. So I just want people to know the good news of the gospel of Jesus Christ. So that's what I would talk about at the end of the day and let people know that. But it's because of the love of God that he has for all of humanity, and wherever people are, whoever, even if they don't even believe it, like there's no shame and there's no hate or anything. It's just, hey, that's just in my heart. That's what I was listening to someone yesterday, and they said, which was a really good quote or good comment. They said, whatever you are immersed in, that's what's going to come out of you. And so, I think I'm just so immersed with God and Jesus. And I think at the end of the day, I love him so much. And that's what I would talk about, to be completely honest.
Fantastic, man. Fantastic. Well, you are definitely a man of commitment. You're a man of your word. And brother, it's too bad that we don't do deals in Virginia, man, because I'd love to do a deal with you. But if you ever find yourself,
I want to do deals with you guys. What do you guys need? How can I serve you guys? Seriously, like that's, I want to do part of this is like, hey, I want to close some deals with you guys too. I want to expand the network and let's get some deals done. Like what do you guys need?
Absolutely, bro. You're serving us right now by being on the podcast, to be honest with you. This is our main goal. We've got, not to say that we don't want more, but we've got plenty of partners and folks that are feeding us deals. We are super fortunate and grateful for that. So just for you being here and being able to share your story, with our audience, we plan on, this podcast isn't going anywhere. We're going to be doing this for quite some time. And so people will be able to look back. Your kids at some point are going to, listen to this and see their young dad tell a story of his beginnings, because I'm sure.
I'm getting old though. I'm 30 years old. I tell everyone this. I went to the gym, worked out my upper body. Actually, no. Yeah, I worked out my lower body and I worked out my upper body and my knees started hurting that day. And so it's just going downhill from here. I'm just kidding. But yeah, I just want to say, seriously, thank you so much for inviting me. Like, I don't know why you invited me. Like, I don't think I have much to contribute. And I just appreciate you doing that. It's an honor to be here. But I also want to point out something. Isham, specifically, I remember the first day you hopped on. Well, the first time I heard you hop on a call with Jamil, I said, man, this guy is going to be incredible. Just because of the questions that he's asking. He's hungry to grow. He's hungry to learn. And then I remember you asking specifically about this podcast, because in my mindset, like, why would I start a podcast if I haven't done anything yet? But the fact that you are already new to this, but also growing at the same time and not afraid to step out and say, hey, we're just going to do this. Like, that is courage that I long to have. Like, and so you are setting an example for myself to, like, not be afraid. You too, Tanner, like, to not be afraid to step out and actually say, hey, this is what I have in mind. I'm going to do it because it's in my heart and I'm going to pursue it. And the fact that you guys have so many episodes already is just incredible. And I think this is just going to continue to blow up. And one day you'll be sitting in the ranks of, like, Grant Cardone and Ryan Pineda, and, you'll be sitting in those seats and maybe, possibly you guys, they'll be learning from you too. And I know they will, and other people will be other people will be learning a lot from you. And I'm just excited to see where this is going to go. And I'm just honored that I get to be a part of it in the beginning. And I can't wait to see what the process is for you guys.
Come on now, chill out,
bro. We'll tell you what. Here's the deal. We'll get you back on here. 6 months, a year from now for an update, because I love progression. I just love it. And so it's good to capture, the stuff, the early ugly stuff in the beginning, just like, a year from now, I'm sure Tanner and I's interview skills will be so much better. But it's ugly in the beginning, and it's okay.
Dude, I'll tell you this, bro. My first sermon is on YouTube and I cringe. I cannot look at it. And I used to rap too. And it's like, no, I can't do that. I can't even look at it ever. And sometimes I'll tell people, hey, go here, you can watch me and just see how I have developed over the years. And it's just amazing what time can do.
Absolutely.
It's just so cool what time can do. And so absolutely. I'm excited to see Wholesale Elite Podcast be the #1 podcast in entrepreneurship, business, and everyone's going to be listening to it. I can't wait.
Let's go. You heard it from the man himself. Joseph, thank you so much for your time, brother. Again, it's been an honor and a pleasure. Can't wait to have you back on. And guys, we'll see you on the next episode. Take care. Peace. What up, Elite fan? That's a wrap for today's episode. But look, if you got value out of the show today, do us a huge favor and give us a review or give us a like or subscribe. Do all the things to help us get the word out there. And look, we want to see you on the next show. So get out there and crush it, make it happen. Stay tuned for the next episode. Peace.